Welcome to Deans Discuss, a podcast that examines how science and research at UC Davis affect our everyday lives. Join our hosts, Allison Brashear, Dean of the UC Davis School of Medicine, and Michael Larimore, Dean of the UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, as they give their thoughts on how the work of scientists, physicians, and researchers affects us all.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, hi there, Allison.
So today, Michael, I think we're going to talk about the interaction between human health and animal health. And we really want to talk about where these pandemics come from. I know that the School of Veterinary Medicine has a wonderful experience. Can you tell us more about where these pandemics come from?
Yeah, I think this has brought a lot of people with that question. Is it how did we get here? Where are the sources of this infection that is spread worldwide? And I think a lot of people may know this, but about 60 to 70% of emerging human diseases, those that are unexpected or expected or known, they come from animal sources. And that source is not without factors that caused it to come forth. A lot of times it's us. It's humans that have disrupted the environment of these animals in their own natural niches, and deforestation, for example. So that's really an interesting thing for people to come in mind, is that we're actually disrupting their environment and causing the release of the Pandora's box.
So I just have to jump in there because how does it jump? We deforest and the animals are loose. I will tell you, I had a skunk in my backyard. I almost had to call you. Never in my wildest dreams would I see that in North Carolina. The deforestation, then how do the viruses jump from the animals to humans to get us in this mess we're in now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of people ask that. One of the reasons is that, when you disrupt their environment, they have to go somewhere. For example, if they're flying fox bats, for example, you disrupt their forest, they fly someplace else, and they're going to fly where their natural niches are, or they're going to adapt. Some of those animals, such as skunks, have adapted to urban environment. So they adapt to us. Coyotes, for example, are a good example that come into our environment. So when we disrupt their environment, they come and find new environments and try to exist, or they become extinct. And that's the natural way of the world. We need to pay more attention to that, because as we've seen from Ebola to a lot of other infections, including the recent coronavirus infection, they can spread. And we are essentially naive to a lot of their pathogens as hosts. And then we get infected. And then we spread it. And once an organism, a microorganism, becomes adaptable, it then can spread into a naive niche, which is us. And so we have to pay attention to that, both for the biodiversity and the importance of that, but also for our own health.
So let me just get this straight. So it's really not like we have to eat the animal or, have the animal help me. I wouldn't bring the skunk into my house, but it's because they were next to each other. We're sharing that environment, that air, if you will, that space that we wouldn't have done otherwise. That's really an important point, because I think some people think that, it came from eating the animal, but I think it's really because we've changed their environment. So we've squeezed them so they have no place to go but into our environment, which I think is really so important as we think about the ways to change things. One of the things I'm really excited about, and one of the things that helped me really get my head around this pandemic, is the importance of teamwork. And I know in the School of Veterinary Medicine, you guys have been looking at this for a long time. You found 1,000 viruses, or tell me a little bit more about that teamwork that preceded this work with the pandemic.
Yeah, one of the things that we do, and often with your colleagues in the School of Medicine in these teams, is apply to federal grants. One of them was the PREDICT grant. And the PREDICT grant, as the name implies, the PREDICT is based upon the ability to go into those interfaces, into the jungles, and survey that and prioritize those animals that might carry known infections, such as bats, for example, and monkeys and other species, but it could be domestic animals as well, and survey them and ask the question, do they carry those pathogens that we know about? So they went all over the world. They were in over 30 countries for over a decade, and they cataloged and it was able to characterize a lot of different viruses, as you mentioned, many of these to build up capacity in those countries as well, laboratories, diagnostic laboratories. And they formed the basis for those countries to now respond to COVID. They're one of the first in those countries to respond to COVID because they knew about the pathogens, was able to stand up diagnostic tests really rapidly. So that PREDICT program was fundamental, but it also showed a pattern that is now being continued.
So let me reframe this a little bit. So the problem really is that we are now sharing our living space with animals that may have viruses that we've never been exposed to, which is a serious health concern for us and, of course, to the animals. The solution is to get ahead of the game, to have teams like the amazing PREDICT team to go out and know what viruses are out there in the animal world and then begin to study them ahead of a pandemic and make sure that we know what we're dealing with. Of course, the other is not to invade the animal space, but that's a bigger issue about climate change and how we live with the environment. So it sounds to me like there's a lot of benefits to this, that if we get ahead and we understand the animal world, there's a lot of benefits to the human world, both with potential treatments as well as prevention. Tell me a little bit about that.
You know, you're absolutely right. I mean, it takes multiple disciplines, but you know, that's the source of creativity. Multiple different disciplines, physicians, veterinarians, biologists. In fact, sometimes we even involve engineers and people that understand how water travels under the ground and on top of the ground. You know, these all come together to solve in a community-based solution fashion, and that is really one of the values of this One Health approach, and also to train those that we're involved in is help them train in a way of thinking. And we call this a One Health workforce. And we have a large grant to train people in these countries of One Health workforce workers. And what they do is they think in terms of teams. So when they go into a community that has a problem, they're thinking, what is the overall factors that are involved in that problem? It could be animals, it could be water. And as you know, as a physician, when you're thinking more holistically about the community, you tend to have the more creative solutions.
Absolutely. So, you know, the solution, I think, is cross-disciplinary collaboration, teamwork, identifying the problem early, and really becoming really engaged. And, you know, isn't that what it's all about in medicine and health and veterinary medicine? It's just about that teamwork, identifying the problem, putting the team together. You know, I think the benefits are going to be extraordinary. The benefits to the One Health program have already paid multiple dividends. And I credit that for us being ahead of the curve. And certainly I know here at UC Davis, everything that was known about virology in the veterinary school helped us immensely to stand up our human test with about 14 days. So there was a direct payoff, a direct benefit to the PREDICT program, to the health of our community here in Sacramento. It's really been incredible to see how these things overlap between our two schools and really the broader mission of all of UC Davis.
Yeah, it was really impressive how you were able to rally everybody together when that first patient came to Northern California. That was a fantastic story. And you really, I think, immediately when you came into your job, recognized that about our campus. And that was wonderful to see. So part of that solution, of course, is to think about what are the new teams, but also the new tools. So one of the new tools, of course, is predictive models and epidemiologists, those that really study patterns within everything from weather patterns to animal trafficking patterns to how people buy things in stores. These are all predictive models, and using artificial intelligence and epidemiological modeling is really the next phase. And we're very happy. About 2 weeks ago, there was announced a new NIH grant to the Disease Dynamics Center. And Christine Kreuter-Johnson, who will be on your town hall coming up in October, will talk about that. And that's part of that solution-oriented approach is now how do we use tools to predict and prevent future pandemics? And you can get ahead of the game if you model and take advantage of all that data. It does require a lot of sharing. It does require a lot of understanding that we do need multiple heads to put our heads towards a solution. But I think that we have that on this campus, and that's one of the reasons I came here as well about 10 years ago, because I was so impressed with that ability to work across disciplines. I see it everywhere I go on campus.
This has been a great conversation, Michael. We've talked about the problem, which is getting ahead of the next pandemic, the solutions, which are, basically team-based science and modeling and using predictive analytics. And, the benefit is really to both animal and humankind. And it just is another example of why UC Davis is just such a unique place for innovation. It's just been so good to talk to you today, Michael. I'm so appreciative of everything that we've been able to build as colleagues.
And you too, Allison. It's great to be able to recruit you to our campus and have you as a leader in medicine and a partner in this One Health approach.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks. Take care, Allison.
Like what you heard or have an idea for a future episode? Email the deans with your suggestions at deansdiscuss@ucdavis.edu. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Deans Discuss Podcast is available free on demand at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon's TuneIn, Stitcher, Pandora, and Spotify. This is Deans Discuss.